There's a lie built into every car you've ever driven. Not a small one, a foundational one. And it's been hiding in plain sight for 140 years, underneath the leather seats, beneath the marketing slogans, buried inside the one system nobody ever questions. Today, that lie finally gets exposed. Open the brochure of any luxury car in 2026. A Rolls Royce, a Bentley, a Mercedes class, and you'll find language designed to make you believe you're buying the future. Words like magic body control, active ride, adaptive chassis dynamics. Strip all of that away. Remove the hand-stitched leather, pull out the noise insulation, cut through the marketing. What you find underneath is a mechanical system that would be completely recognizable to an engineer from the 1880s. A steel spring, a tube filled with oil. That's it. The spring carries the weight of the car. The oil-filled tube, the damper, slows down the spring's oscillation, so the car doesn't bounce indefinitely. Together, they form the fundamental architecture of virtually every road vehicle ever built. From a horse-drawn carriage in Victorian England to a $200,000 Porsche Panamera rolling off a dealer's lot today. This isn't evolution. It's fossilization dressed in expensive clothing. And the deeper problem isn't just that the system is old. The problem is how it works. A traditional suspension system is by definition reactive. It waits. The wheel hits a pothole, gets forced upward violently, and only then does the damper begin responding, pushing hydraulic fluid through narrow internal valves to absorb that energy. That sequence creates a physics problem engineers have a name for: hysteresis. The lag between the moment the road strikes the wheel and the moment the suspension actually responds. Here's what makes that lag so dangerous. It's not a software problem. It's not something you can patch with a faster processor. It's a physical limitation. Oil has viscosity. It resists movement. It takes time to pressurize and flow. No matter how sophisticated the electronics controlling a modern adaptive damper are, the fluid underneath is still governed by the same physics as it was in 1960. For a century, the automotive industry told us this was unavoidable, that the trade-off between ride comfort and handling precision was an immutable law of nature, that you simply cannot have both. That was the lie.
To understand why this matters so deeply in 2026, we need to go back to two moments in history that the automotive industry would rather forget. The first is 1992, the Williams FW14B Formula One car. Williams had developed a fully active hydraulic suspension system, one that could read the road in real time, calculate the precise force needed at each corner, and adjust the ride height actively rather than reactively. The result was devastating. The car was so aerodynamically stable, so planted, so perfectly controlled that other teams couldn't compete. The FIA banned it. Not because it was dangerous, because it was too good. That ban effectively told the world, active suspension works, and then buried the technology for 3 decades. The second moment is less famous, but more significant. Dr. Amar Bose, the same man behind the Bose audio empire, spent 30 years and hundreds of millions of dollars pursuing a radical idea. Replace the hydraulic damper entirely with electromagnetic motors. Use electrical force instead of fluid pressure. His prototypes were extraordinary. Test vehicles could absorb road impacts so completely that passengers reported feeling nothing. The cars could corner with near-zero body roll. One prototype could literally jump over obstacles placed in its path during testing. And then the car industry walked away. The official reasons were weight, complexity, and power consumption. The real reason was simpler. The technology required enormous amounts of electrical power, and in the era of 12-volt systems and internal combustion engines, that power simply wasn't available at a reasonable cost or weight penalty. So the industry made a choice. It chose to keep refining the Victorian spring and damper system. It added electronic controls. It added air springs. It added adaptive valving. Each generation of luxury car became marginally better at managing the fundamental compromise. But the compromise itself was never eliminated. What the engineers of the 1990s failed to predict was the rise of the high-voltage electric vehicle platform. Because the moment you put an 800-volt battery pack into a car, the energy equation changes completely. Suddenly the power requirements that killed the Bose project become not just feasible, they become trivial. That shift is precisely what BYD exploited. BYD is a company that started manufacturing mobile phone batteries in Shenzhen in the 1990s. Today, it has done something that Mercedes, Benz, Porsche, and BMW, with their combined century of chassis engineering expertise, have not. It has produced the linear motor suspension, and put it into cars that real people can buy. The system is called disuse. And before we go further, we need to be surgically precise about what this actually is, because the automotive press has done a poor job explaining it. Air suspension replaces the steel spring with a rubber air bladder. It is softer, more adjustable, and more comfortable than a conventional spring. But it is still governed by the same reactive physics. Gas still takes time to compress and expand. The fundamental lag is still there. The disuse system eliminates fluid and gas entirely. It is a dry electromagnetic system. At each corner of the vehicle, there is a three-phase linear motor, essentially a high-speed electromagnetic actuator built into a compact cylinder inside the wheel arch. When electrical current is applied, it doesn't generate pressure. It doesn't push fluid. It generates force directly. Linear, immediate, precise force, applied at the speed of electromagnetic induction rather than the speed of fluid dynamics. The critical performance number that defines this technology is 10 milliseconds. That is the system's full reaction time from sensor input to mechanical output. For context, the human brain takes 200 to 250 milliseconds to consciously register a visual threat. A blink of an eye takes approximately 100 milliseconds. The disuse system reads the road surface via LiDAR and accelerometer inputs, calculates the precise force vector required, and physically moves the suspension 20 times faster than you can perceive that a bump exists. This enables something that has been theorized in engineering circles for decades, but never practically achieved at scale: true skyhook suspension. The principle of skyhook theory is simple. Imagine the car body is connected not to the wheels below it, but to a fixed point in the sky above it. An imaginary hook that holds the chassis perfectly level relative to the horizon, regardless of what the road surface is doing. The wheels articulate furiously beneath the car. The body remains completely still. In practice, this means the disuse motor can extend a wheel downward into a pothole and retract it again before the vertical shock wave has time to transfer through the chassis into the cabin. The road irregularity is absorbed not by the compression of a spring or the flow of fluid, but by the anticipatory movement of the wheel itself. The topography of the road is effectively erased before it reaches the passenger. There is a secondary engineering implication that the automotive press has almost entirely ignored. For decades, the idea of putting heavy motors near the wheels was considered handling suicide. Unsprung mass, the weight below the suspension, directly affects how quickly a wheel can respond to road changes. Heavier wheels are slower to react. This was considered a fundamental argument against in-wheel motor systems. The disuse architecture invalidates this argument completely. Because the motor is active, it doesn't just carry its own mass passively. It can accelerate the wheel downward at forces greater than gravity, beyond 9.81 meters per second squared, actively pressing the tire into the road surface to generate mechanical grip where none previously existed. The suspension stops being a shock absorber. It becomes a downforce generator. The disuse system comes in three variants: Z, X, and P, each targeting a different use case with different engineering priorities. The disuse as Z, found in the Yangwang U7, represents the luxury application: seamless road isolation, invisible comfort, the kind of ride quality that makes the Rolls-Royce Ghost feel like a well-tuned farm vehicle by comparison. The disuse X, found in the Yangwang U9, is the weaponized version. peak suspension power output 36 kilowatts. That is more electrical power than the entire drivetrain of a small city car, devoted exclusively to controlling wheel position. The viral footage of the U9 jumping vertically off the ground is not a marketing stunt. It is a physics demonstration. A 2.5-ton vehicle leaving the Earth requires explosive, instantaneous force deployment. The Disused X delivers it. More importantly, the U9 can drive on 3 wheels. If a wheel is lost at speed, a scenario that has ended lives in conventional supercars, the system detects the pressure loss in milliseconds, retracts the damaged corner clear of the ground, stiffens the diagonally opposite corner as a structural fulcrum, and uses torque vectoring across the remaining 3 motors to hold the car straight. A catastrophic mechanical failure becomes a manageable event. The Disused P in the Yangwang U8 takes hydraulics to their logical extreme for off-road use. 155 mm of independent articulation, intelligent cross, axle linking, and emergency float mode that allows the car to seal itself and use spinning wheels for propulsion in deep water. Meanwhile, the best that Porsche offers in 2026 is a 48-volt active anti-roll system. It is genuinely impressive within its constraints. But it cannot lift the car. It cannot jump. It cannot recover from a missing wheel. It is a sophisticated refinement of the same Victorian compromise. BYD didn't bring a better knife to the fight. It brought an entirely different class of weapon, and the legacy manufacturers are only beginning to understand what that means for them. One final engineering detail deserves attention. Regenerative damping. A traditional damper takes kinetic energy from vertical wheel movement and wastes it as heat. The Disused motors, because they consist of magnets moving through coils, operate in reverse, when absorbing impacts generating electrical current that feeds back into the high-voltage battery. The rougher the road, the more energy is recovered. The car becomes symbiotic with bad infrastructure. This is the efficiency closure that killed the Bose project in the 1990s. Finally solved by the 800-volt platform that nobody in Detroit or Stuttgart saw coming. For generations, brands like Lotus, BMW M, and Porsche built their reputations on something intangible. The instinct of master engineers who spent careers tuning springs, testing shims, chasing the perfect mechanical balance that gave a car its soul. That era is over. With disuse, the character of a car is no longer forged in metal. It's written in code, stiffness, rebound rate, roll resistance. All of it defined by software variables, updatable over air, modifiable monthly based on real-world user data. You can download a track mode that mimics a GT3 race car. You can switch to a comfort mode that recreates the float of a 1970s Cadillac. The hardware is identical. The personality is a firmware update. The road didn't get smoother. The infrastructure didn't improve. The machine simply learned to make the road irrelevant. That is not evolution. That is a category shift. And it happened in Shenzhen, not Stuttgart.